States National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, has been conducting extensive research on hydroponic techniques in an effort to discover ways of growing food in outer space or on other planets. You're watching Planet Earth, Our Loving Home. When we return after these brief messages, we'll learn more about hydroponic farming, one of the Ahimsa agricultural methods in which no worms are harmed in the cultivation of crops. Please keep your dial tuned here to Supreme Master Television. On today's Planet Earth, Our Loving Home, we're exploring farming methods which would be considered as Ahimsa agriculture, in which no sentient beings such as the beneficial worms are harmed in the cultivation process. Let's continue with our discussion from our previous segment of hydroponic farming, a method of growing plants in mineral nutrient solutions. Practically speaking, many of us would probably like to know, do fruits and vegetables grown using hydroponics taste good? Indeed they do. In fact, Eurofresh Farms has been recognized by the American Culinary Institute as the home of America's best-tasting tomato for the past 10 years. Fruits and vegetables grown in hydroponics are also just as nutritious as conventionally grown produce.
The nutritional requirements of the plants are exactly the same wherever they're grown. It doesn't matter how they're grown. The requirements of the plants are the same. The plant has to take up the nutrient in exactly the same formula. The most important thing is that the plant is grown well. Then it will be good for you.
Much of the fresh produce provided to athletes and officials at the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing, China, was grown locally in organic hydroponic greenhouses. World-renowned hydroponics expert Michael James Stromiadis states that this alternative was chosen because hydroponics allows strict quality control, reliable supply, environmental benefits, and it produces high nutrition crops. Where did the concept of hydroponics come from? The idea is actually ancient, and some of the first peoples known to practice this method of gardening were the Incas and Aztecs.
Hydroponic growing is a very, very old technique. It was first developed by the hanging gardens of Babylon, which is very, very old. The Americans developed that further in the Second World War to feed their troops further into the islands. Subsequently, it was developed commercially by Dr. Cooper in England and taken up and expanded very, very much commercially by the Dutch and other countries around the world. Today, worldwide, I would guess that at least 90% of commercial greenhouse crops are grown hydroponically, using one or another form of hydroponic growing.
The first book about this form of agriculture was Silva Servarum, written by Sir Francis Bacon of England, published in 1627. English naturalist John Woodward continued in hydroponics experiments by growing spearmint hydroponically. In 1699, he published his results, stating that plants raised in water obtained from rivers or ponds grew more abundantly than those grown in distilled water. He concluded that the plants benefited from nutrition found in natural water. This was confirmed in 1842 when German botanists Julius von Sachs and Wilhelm Knopp identified 9 elements they believed to be essential to plant growth. By dissolving these elements in the water fed to a plant, both growth and fruit production were greatly enhanced. In 1929, the concept of hydroponic gardening began to take root and expand in the U.S., fueled by the enthusiastic efforts of Professor William Frederick Jarrett of the University of California at Berkeley. In fact, the term hydroponics was coined by Professor Jarrett and is derived from the Greek words hydros, meaning water, and ponos, meaning labor. Today, hydroponic farmers grow plants in water containing several dissolved minerals and nutrients. The 6 primary nutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, along with trace amounts of other elements such as boron, copper, iron, zinc, and manganese, ensuring harvests that are abundant, good-tasting, and filled with nutrition. Thank you for joining us for today's Planet Earth, Our Loving Home on Ahimsa farming methods. Join us next Wednesday for Part 2, where we will continue to explore hydroponic systems and other alternative methods of crops cultivation in which no worms or other small sentient beings are harmed. Up next, stay tuned for enlightening entertainment right after noteworthy news here on Supreme Master Television. May your life be filled with the light and love of heaven.